Good boy.
What do you mean, good boy? Just because the dog has had water all afternoon and he decides the second before I literally clicked the record button to just start slurping.
I was saying good boy because he did as you asked and went away.
The dog is union. I thought he was on strike. Shouldn't he'd be on the picket lines?
No, you've raised your dog right. He doesn't participate in unions.
Yeah, well, that's why he doesn't have health care. If I had a child who wanted to perform, I would get them in SAG as early as possible.
There's so many things wrong with that statement.
I said who wanted to. I didn't say I was going to push my child into performing. That's weird.
Number one, you should never have a child. Number two, you should never have a child who's a performer. And number three...
What's number three? You didn't have a number three chambered. You had a number one and number two.
You should never have a child who wants to be an actor.
Who are you to say no if they want to act? I mean, it's not like they're going to be good.
Well, no, that's the point. Yeah, your child.
What if they're really bad?
You want them to become the Denise Richards of acting, or Tori Spelling? What do you want?
I didn't say they were ugly. I said, what if they were bad? Okay, so Tori Spelling update. She was in... So, first of all, for those of you who don't know, Tori Spelling from Melrose Place is currently living in a Motel 6 somewhere in the valley.
Allegedly, or do you know this for sure?
There's photos of it.
Okay.
And she was asked about it, and she confirmed it.
Okay.
Apparently, there's mold in her rental house. And so her and her, 5 kids are living in a Motel 6, and she made sure that there was someone there to capture photos of them, carrying their bags downstairs.
She can't afford anything more than a Motel 6?
Candy cut off her cards again. But apparently Candy is supporting the fact that she is now in the process of a divorce from Dean McDermott again. The 4th time. And I just love, though, that in the past couple months, you saw Tori Spelling go away a little bit, but then if you follow her, if you go on Daily Mail, you'll see there's a news story about her every week, and it's Tori Spelling reveals why she wanted to do Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and they wouldn't let her. Tori Spelling, mold disaster, and just a picture of her in a face mask. Tori Spelling and a down market motel.
You say she's gone away as if she's not been away. Half of the people listening to this probably have no idea who Tori Spelling is.
I don't know. I think she's a podcast.
No one listens to it.
I wonder if we have more
people listen to ours than Tori Spelling.
What do we have to do to get Tori? I mean, besides pay her, what do we have to do to get Tori Spelling on this podcast?
Promise her a meeting with Andy Cohen.
I just love this idea of 10:30 at night. Andy Cohen is putting his kids to bed, and by his kids I mean the twinks that he hired for the night.
He has one kid.
And you just see Tori Spelling scratching at the windows outside the front of his house. Let me in! I want to be on Bravo!
But no, I think you have that backwards. I think Andy's kid probably puts him to sleep after, an alleged...
Andy's kid dusts the rest of his Coke into a bag. Yeah. And he's all right, time to get you to bed, Dad. You're a little zonked.
Kicks Anderson Cooper out and says, all right, Daddy, time to go to bed.
One of the reasons I hate Andy Cohen very much is I feel like he was instrumental in breaking up Anderson Cooper and Kathy Griffin. Because Kathy Griffin did the CNN thing, this New Year's thing, every year with Anderson Cooper, every New Year's Eve, the day of New Year's Eve broadcast.
Right.
And was fine. They did a good job.
No.
They did a good job.
I'm not one to take up for Andy Cohen because God knows I hate that queen. But Kathy Griffin did herself in because she doesn't know how to edit herself, especially on live television.
What's wrong with that? That's the whole point you have her on.
When you're broadcasting to the entire country / other countries as well, on a live broadcast to children as well.
She has a tape delay.
I think she's the reason they came up with the delay.
They added the tape delay.
She would say or do anything to get a rise out of people. She's the ultimate shock person.
I love her.
Well, no, you can. It's fine to love that, but you're gonna get blacklisted from live television if you do that.
But
shit.
I love that she.
You and I could never be on live television.
That's true. But I love that she managed to make every single person who was a like known television, like Anderson Cooper had like a decade of TV under his belt when they first started doing stuff. Barbara Walters had been doing TV for 83 years when she finally let Kathy Griffin on The View. Like, I love that she made these people look as ridiculous as they are. Like, she exposed the fact that these people just go on, they read basically from a script, they have no actual personality. They just have a personality for television. And why was Barbara Walters considered to be this great interviewer?
I don't know.
Just because she occasionally asked a stupid question about trees?
And she sounded like she had too many strokes. I don't know.
Exactly.
No, but
not to say I wasn't sad when she died, because it's like, you know, like when you see like one of those like giant sequoias die, because you're like, wow, that thing's been around forever. But like, come on.
I think it probably happened once. Kathy Griffin got blacklisted or kicked off of some show once, and then it became a game to her because she's
like, how many shows can I get kicked off?
Right, and that's what she works into her sets for her stand-up. Yes. So it becomes a running gag that, you know, and material for her to talk about. So, like, it's become her game. It's become her raison d'etre. Like, it's what she does, and I don't think there's any other places she can get kicked off anymore. I think she's won the game.
I remember that one of the greatest moments of live television was in 2006, and it was the Today Show. And Ann Coulter was on the show promoting Godless. And it was for, I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before. It was when the Today Show went to the outdoor courtyard to broadcast. So they broadcast in the studio.
I think Kathy Griffin talks about this as well.
Yes, she talked about it. And so the Today Show has their like indoor set, but then they had the outdoor set because they did the concert series there where Hilary Duff did her famous dance. And
that was usually during the summer, right?
Yes. So then they would have people outside talk for like one of the segments of the show.
Right.
And so it's Matt Lauer there, you know, creep. And then Ann Coulter there talking about her book Godless. And so Kathy Griffin was up next, who is one of Ann Coulter's favorite comedians. And so Ann Coulter does her set, pisses off Matt Lauer the whole time because she's like, Matt's like, come on, you can't say these kind of things. She's like, what's wrong with what I said? Like, do you have anything to refute that? And so Matt Lauer's all pissed. And then Kathy Griffin comes on afterward, and she was supposed to be talking about something completely different. She's like, can you believe that? What's she doing wearing an evening dress on the morning television show? She wore that from last night? And she's making Matt Lauer so uncomfortable because she could pick up on Matt Lauer being the, you know, the creep that he was. And it was one of the greatest moments of live television because everyone, Matt Lauer, the crew, the producers, the camera people had no idea what to do.
And Ann Coulter probably loved it.
And she loved it, and that was great. I think they also did a back-to-back on The View as well. But yeah, I miss when A, people watch live television, and B, things like that could happen where you're like, oh, this wasn't planned. Now if there's any stunts on live television, it's like, oh, that was kind of... Like for the longest time, the Oscar slap, they're like, that was probably... Like, no one believes anything anymore.
Yeah, because it seemed a little bit too staged. But anyway, we don't want to get into that. I just you made me from your story. You made me realize is Coulter the original? I hate to. Is the original Donald Trump like? Where she was notorious for just saying things that were quite honestly the truth, but not necessarily so nice. With no regard to whom she offended.
Well, with Coulter, you have to come from the perspective that she was an attorney first. So you have somebody who does their research, obviously,
right?
And understands the
that's
law.
beside the point.
But
the point is they'll
also became an author,
right? But
so
both
that's
of them,
very unusual.
I guess my point is both of them
arc.
will say things off the cuff and be 99.9% correct, but just. You could have said that a little bit nicer, or a little with a little bit more tact.
I think the thing that people fundamentally misunderstand about both of them is that they say things purposefully to get a response. I don't think so. I think that is genuinely the way that they say things is genuinely. It's a genuine thought. Now, those things may be funny, and they may be taken as funny. They may be taken literally or seriously, or literally instead of seriously. But there's always the sort of film that's put on both of them that is, well, you don't actually mean something. Like, you're just trying to get a laugh or a rise out of people. It's like, no, I actually mean that.
Well,
like, people are like, he doesn't actually mean that Mexico's not sending their best. No, he actually means that. He's making a very important point right now.
I would honestly hope they're not sending their best because... But you probably know the story better than I do because I wasn't a big follower in politics at the time.
Right.
But Coulter got the original, sort of moniker of a bitch when she called the 9/11 widows harpies or something.
Right.
But I forget exactly what the context was behind it.
Because I think that was around that same, it was in Godless, and it was during that same book tour in 2006. Because she was on The View earlier that week.
It was that later, that far after
yes.
9/11, okay.
I believe it was for... I
just thought it was closer to 9/11 than...
Let me see, because there were a couple of books that came out at that time, and I want to make sure it was the same one. Yes, 2006. Okay.
The only book I read of hers was... now I'm going to forget the name. The one about the 2000 election.
Slander? There was Slander, Treason. There was the High Crimes and Misdemeanors.
No, it was a one-word title. I think it was Slander.
It was probably Slander because that was the...
It was about the 2000 election, and she was talking about how... especially in Florida, they called the election prematurely for someone for Gore, I think.
Yeah.
And then that stopped people from going to finish voting, because polls hadn't closed, and she was
And it was also about media and how media has this. It was one of the first books saying like the media is not your friend.
Right.
And it was a really good book.
But that was her like almost quintessential example in that book of. The media called this race for president of all things for one person, and a lot of people like turned around and went back home and didn't vote because they thought it was done.
Over, yeah. So it was actually rigging an election. With the 9/11 widows quote, it came after 2004 because there was a group of like 3 or 4 9/11 widows, and they were used as political props by the John Kerry campaign. So they went and led John Kerry rallies, and they said, our husbands didn't die for George Bush to be president, and all this like really like horrible stuff. So they were some of the first. Well, they're victims. You can't disagree with them. And she said the quote specifically. She said these harpies they go into, but she said I've never seen people enjoying their husband's death so much.
Right.
And that was the part people were like, oh my God, how could she say something like that? But it was a very incisive point about the left using victims of insert tragedy here, whether it's a school shooting or 9/11 or whatever, everything like that, as a political prop to beat you over the head to get whatever they want. Right. And that was what they became.
Right, so
ended them, by the way. You never heard from those bitches again.
Using a personal tragedy to get a paycheck.
To get a paycheck and to also for political purpose.
Right. But I knew that was the reason behind the comments, but I didn't know exactly what the entire context was.
So that was the context for that. Of course, the media basically said that she thinks that widows of 9/11 are horrible people. Some like horrible like extrapolation of it that they want to be true. So that was
just the one specific or the few specific who did those.
These few specific women who you could not didn't meet a camera they didn't like Chuck Schumer. So
they were probably all cheating on their husbands anyway. Well,
they never met a gardener they didn't like.
I know we have a lot of other things to talk about. Oh, I'm sorry. To backtrack just a tiny bit, because you brought up Andy Cohen, we don't talk much about, reality television, even though you and I are kind of avid watchers. And if you follow me on Twitter, it is no secret that I'm a Real Housewives fanatic in some manner. But
not in a weird way.
I used to be in a weird way, but not anymore.
You're recovering.
Well, no, I used to live for those retweets or comments by these women who just like, I felt validated, like, oh, they see me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I obviously I don't do that much anymore. But
well, I think that changed because you actually did start seeing these people in real life. Once you go to dinner and there's a Real Housewife just sitting next to you, then it's like, oh, there's
yeah. And I also got some notoriety for writing about it, back when I was anonymous, but I don't do that anymore. Maybe I'll get back into it someday. But again, we watch, we consume this stuff, but it's been a while since I've watched Real Housewives of New York City, and that was one of my favorite to begin with. And this was the first franchise that they've completely... They call it a reboot, but it's like a recast. Like, it's the same show, but they just got rid of literally everyone on the cast and just replaced them. This never happened before. And so it just premiered.
Cleared the slate.
Right. It just premiered this past week to some pretty positive reviews. But one person in particular, and now I have to look it up really quickly. Her name, because I sent this to you.
And her name was Jill Zarin.
Erin Licky, something. She is one of the new Real Housewives of New York City.
Oh, good.
And apparently donated like a couple $100 to Trump's Make America Great campaign committee or whatever.
Didn't Sonia do that too? And Ramona?
I think Ramona did. I don't know about Sonia, but...
Sonia dated him once.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But obviously the stuff is mostly public record when you donate to campaigns.
Yeah, because you look up FEC
right.
filings, anything above a certain amount you see.
So this woman who knows that she's going on reality television on a very, very, very quote-unquote progressive network... NBC, which is Bravo, which is owned by NBC. And people have gotten fired for less, quite honestly, on this channel.
But I would love to see her just make a comment like, look, I don't know why you would have a problem with it. This was a major party candidate, and this is free speech.
Right, so I'm waiting for a comment, but someone has, done their due diligence in the digging, and I'm waiting to see what happens,
They said one of the other people donated to Marianne Williamson, too.
This just came out today, though, so it's like, is it going to gain traction or what? So I just thought it was interesting and kind of
It is, but it's so funny
amazing.
how the gotchas happen with political donations. I think anything under a few grand doesn't matter in the larger sense because rich people give money. Big deal. Now, if someone's trying to go and fundraises like $300,000 for somebody, I think that's when you should start to be like, wait a second. No matter whose side it's on. That's a little weird to me. But if they just give money out of their personal account in an amount of money that somebody might spend at a store on a shopping spree for a candidate that's running for political office.
She probably has shoes that cost more than that
exactly.
donation.
To these people, that's not a big deal.
Right.
That's like giving $20 to the person running for the PTA.
But we know the rabid militant leftists who are going to destroy this woman, especially in the gay community, who are going to say, oh my God, you donated to him and he's homophobic and I can't believe you're on my favorite show and we have to get her off.
He lives in New York. You're donating to your neighbor.
You and I believe the same thing.
Right.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Apologize. I really hope that she does not apologize for this.
Again, though, people have gotten fired from their shows for less, and so I'm wondering if did Bravo just not do their due diligence in looking at this stuff? Because
okay, I don't think that any of these networks. Here's another secret of reality TV I'd like to put out there. Most shows, even ones up until very recently, their quote background checks that they were supposed to do on contestants literally are like the background check you would get for an apartment.
True.
Like they're like, oh, they didn't pay back a credit card. That's it. Big deal. Like they have had people on these shows who have killed people, who have stabbed people.
Right, but
they don't. They really genuinely don't care about this stuff. And when it comes to that kind of stuff, they don't look at their Twitter accounts. Like it's very easy to get on one of those shows and pass the vetting.
For example, one of the very famous and popular shows right now, Vanderpump Rules. Back, I don't remember what season it was, but back in like 2019, 2020, when people were home because of the pandemic and had nothing better to do, people dug into past tweets of some of these cast members.
Yeah.
And Bravo fired two of the very prominent cast members of that show since the beginning, Jax and Stassi, because from like way back in 2006 when they were like young and stupid, said things that someone might have deemed racist. They weren't even actually racist, but someone might have deemed them racist. So they were like, oh, you're canceled, sis, you're fired. And so they were on a show for like 10 years, and then they got kicked off because of a tweet.
Because they dug up a tweet from 2006, like...
From like 15 years ago.
Where's my bitches at? Like, that's...
So this is what I mean by people have gotten fired for quote-unquote less. I'm wondering what the repercussions of this are going to be, or if there are going to be any. I find it fascinating.
I do, too, in the sense that I think with New York, and this is one of the biggest misgivings that people have about New York, and it's the same one they have about LA. Those cities specifically, too. There's this misconception that everybody in New York is liberal. They're not.
Right.
If you throw a stone, you will hit somebody in New York who's conservative, especially in certain neighborhoods.
They just don't talk about it.
They don't talk about it. Like, I went to a store there. I got talking to one of the guys who worked there and was putting the stuff in the bag. And, politics came up, and he was like, God, that's, so glad I hope we can get Trump in there again and stuff like that. Like, it's like, okay, great, I love that. And you're in the middle of Fifth Avenue in New York, and you're thinking, oh, these are like rabid liberals and stuff like that. But a neighborhood of New York like Brooklyn or parts of downtown or Harlem do not set the tone for the entire city. The working class people in Queens or in the Bronx or, people who live in the Upper East Side or the Upper West Side or even, that's how the city is. Same thing with LA.
Right, I was about to make that point. It's probably the same thing here.
It is too, because you look at some of the neighborhoods of town and they're very 50-50. Like, Beverly Hills is 52-48 Republican. Other parts around it are about 50-50, Hancock Park, Koreatown, and stuff like that. Now, Los Feliz is very liberal, and downtown, and, those kind of very hipster areas. And Santa Monica, probably when you get down to, some of the beach and the rent-controlled areas, and Venice. But that doesn't mean that the whole city is, as a rule or as a whole.
Right.
Which is why I think that people are surprised that there's a pushback with the school board stuff in Glendale and North Hollywood. And I'm like, you don't understand. These areas are probably maybe 60-40, 60 liberal, 40 conservative, and that can push in different amounts, depending upon how things go. And so it's you can't ignore 2 out of every 5 or 3 out of every 5 people there just because your stereotype of what those people are like are very liberal. Now, I would put those numbers up against some college towns across the country, in Alabama or in Iowa or Indiana, or what you would consider to be very red states. They are maybe 80-20 liberal and 90-10 liberal. So there's some very blue cities in red states that people forget about, and then some other cities that are kind of half and half.
So then it becomes a game of population, right? So in the city of Los Angeles,
right,
the population in the more liberal areas, I guess, tends to be higher than...
It tends to be denser, yeah.
Right. So that's why you get Karen Bass winning. Which,
also, okay, here's a very good thing too. English is a first language. That's a very good metric as well in a city like Los Angeles or in a city like New York. There's a very big operation to get recent immigrants or migrants to be liberal voters.
Right.
Republicans don't have that kind of outreach. They've sort of abandoned that completely.
I think that's stupid, but...
especially when first-generation immigrants can be more conservative than second and third generation. Immigrants who choose, not the ones who just sort of walk over.
Well, so
distinctions.
You lead directly into my next topic.
Yes, and I have another topic after
screw
that.
Your topic.
I don't have my list open, but yes, I have another one. But we'll get to that first.
You very nicely led into it. So tell me what you know about Temecula and their demographics politically. I don't know much, so I'm asking you.
Temecula is
obviously south of
About an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours south of Los Angeles.
Right.
Kind of in a dead zone between LA and Orange County and then San Diego.
right. So somewhere between, I was going to say somewhere between somewhere between Orange County and San Diego.
It is. It's like Orange. You have to go up, so you have to go over the mountains in Irvine and over the other side, and then down, and there's Temecula. It's kind of hidden by itself. They apparently have wine country there, and
Yes.
it's a very rural and I would say mostly conservative area.
So, earlier this year, again, I don't remember exactly when, and I just wrote about this. The Temecula School Board, to Temecula Valley Unified School District,
Yes.
in 2022, they had their election for school board. They kicked out, I think they have 5 school board members. 4 were up for election. I'm not sure exactly why 4 out of the 5. I didn't.
Different terms or something.
Right. But 4 out of the 5 were up for re-election. 3 of those 4 lost. The
Wow.
incumbents lost to a new person.
Good.
And the 4th person won by the slimmest of margins. But the point is, they didn't like whoever was in there before, the parents.
Right.
And so they elected a almost completely new school board.
Good.
Those school board members chose earlier this year to not purchase social studies or history textbooks for elementary school students. We're talking like probably 4th, 5th grade, maybe 3rd grade. So like maybe 10 years old. They chose not to purchase history textbooks that mentioned Harvey Milk because he was, and I'm quoting,
Pederast.
I'm quoting the president of the school board. He is a pedophile, and we should we should not have him mentioned to our kids.
It's about time they do that.
So our illustrious, your illustrious, he's not mine, Governor, Mr. Newsom, decided, well, we're gonna purchase those textbooks for the students of Temecula and override the school board and like put them in the libraries and put them places where these students can actually get them because they need to learn about Harvey Milk, apparently.
Why do kids need to learn about Harvey Milk?
Especially when...
Why do kids need to learn about a local figure in San Francisco? Like, that's the best that you can do?
And he was in office for like a year and a half before he was assassinated. I mean, I'm not saying he deserved to be assassinated. I'm not saying that at all, but he did nothing.
him?
He did nothing. I don't even remember.
Was it one of his ex?
I don't remember.
Was it a kid that he diddled?
I don't remember. But the point is,
Let me look it up.
he was in office for like a year in San Francisco, so he really did hardly anything. Yet for some reason, people think that he deserves, all this notoriety and stuff named after him because he was the quote unquote first openly gay politician in the entire country.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second. Let's back this up. Harvey Milk was not assassinated for any political reason or personal reason. He was assassinated by the former city supervisor, Dan White, who the mayor, George Moscone, and supervisor, Harvey Milk, shared an office with. It was an instance of workplace violence. So Dan White resigned from a job, and it was going to be given to somebody else. White, angered, entered City Hall before the announcement time, and first shot Moscone in the mayor's office, then Harvey Milk. And almost killed Dianne Feinstein in the process, who then became mayor of San Francisco. Why don't they have Dianne Feinstein in those textbooks? She's still alive. And far more influential than Harvey Milk.
And has probably done, as much as we probably, dislike her.
She
and
is a gay icon.
And the stuff that she's done much more for this state than Harvey Milk ever did.
Right.
So why does he have a high school in New York City named after him? Why does he have a postage stamp back in like 2014? Why does he have a Navy ship named after him? Why does he have to be mentioned in a 10-year-old's textbook?
What about the dog who was mayor for like a year in Michigan? Should he be on a postage stamp? They just do that because it was, I guess, the first openly gay male out politician to be a high-level official in a major city. Which, that's stretching it by a lot because, like, look, Jeanette Rankin, big dyke. Like, there's so many gay public officials that came and went. We had a president, for God's sake, before Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk is in there for a year. gets killed by a guy who didn't get a job, and now we have to, create a statue to him and knock over the Junipero Serra statues in California.
Right. So this is exactly what my article said was, this is ridiculous that because he was somewhat maligned and is not being pushed down the throats of 10-year-olds.
The governor, Harvey Milk did push down the throats of 10-year-olds.
Only you would take it there. I didn't mean it that way, and you know it. Sorry. No. Fair enough. I misspoke. You know what I mean? Like to throw his legacy down someone's throat. You're terrible. But why does the governor of one of the most populous states in the country think that is so necessary and mandatory that he's going to spend, a semi-bankrupt state's money and resources to purchase books that the school board says, no, we don't want? Like, you're overstepping and overriding the votes of those people in that area who voted for these school board members.
Because it's the same nonsense as outside of the Universal offices. They trim the trees, and it happened to be along the block where the protesters were standing. And then the city, Kenneth Maija, the local supervisor for that district, was like, we're going to investigate this tree trimming because those were city trees and you're blocking protesters' access to shade or something like that. It's the same shit. Everything is falling apart and we can't do anything, so we're going to pretend like we really care about the most non-useful, like, minutia within a district that could particularly or somehow, like, influence a minority demographic.
In the slightest of ways.
We are this close. We are this close to a local official getting involved in someone's order being wrong at Popeyes. We're that close to this.
Like, why you got to bring race into this?
What's wrong with that? It's a Louisiana kitchen. Okay, Popeyes, by the way, you want to talk about race? The commercial and the woman seemed very nice. But the commercial where they hired the woman to be like, "Sure enough, come down to Popeye," this Mammy commercial that they had on there, that was so offensive.
Well, okay.
Come on down to Popeyes now, y'all. I was like, I remember watching it the first time and my mouth was open. Like,
the thing is...
oh my, like that was worse than Aunt Jemima. That was worse than anything.
I'm going to take up for them just slightly because the thing is...
You remember that commercial too.
Well, I think they still run them. Like,
no, she's
still employed. She
has like a the Power of the Pine Salt head kind of gig.
But to take up for them slightly, Popeyes, again, as you said, it's a Louisiana company, Louisiana based. Louisiana is very much, especially now, black. It is. Well, no, the majority of the population of the state is black. Like, it's what it is. New Orleans has been majority black for quite a long time. Baton Rouge, as early as, when did I leave there?
Well, after
2010.
Katrina.
2010. Yeah. So like 2008, 2009, even before Katrina, it was majority black. Right. It was. Which is fine. Like, that's fine. And it's actually really good because there's a huge growing black middle class contingency in the state of in the city of Baton Rouge.
Right.
Which is it's amazing. Like, it shows what people can do when they
have
put their minds and their abilities to it and are given the opportunities.
Right.
So, and I talked about this before, but using her as a spokesperson in Louisiana was not ever frowned upon. And so I think they just used her as the entire nation, like, national spokesperson.
It was,
and I don't think it was meant to be a caricature because that's how these people talk.
Right. It was just shocking.
And so to me, it's like, oh, well, that's normal.
I'm just sitting there watching the view and I hear, well, shit. Now come on down to Popeyes, baby. And
she doesn't actually say that.
Wow. I don't think you could put that on TV. I swear, when I saw the first Popeyes commercial with her as a spokeswoman, I'm like, this is going to get pulled. Like, there is no way.
No, it's not, because
there is no way.
Their demographic in Louisiana, which is where, quite frankly, Popeyes does the best, probably in margins.
But you told me that Popeyes is terrible.
No, Popeyes is amazing in Louisiana. I've had it outside of Louisiana. It's horrible. It's nasty. Don't
It
eat
really
there.
is.
But if you
I
go
will
to
say-
Louisiana, go like to New Orleans and eat at Popeyes, it's completely different. It's a completely different restaurant.
Why would you go to Popeyes in New Orleans when you have so many places that are
I know,
actual local restaurants?
I know. But still, if you're on a budget in New Orleans, go to Popeyes and you're going to get a much better experience than
I
you would
want
anywhere
a
else.
commercial for the black gentleman who did the cookout station for the KKK meetings.
What?
Did you ever hear that story?
Oh, God.
About how they were like, they asked them once, like, wait a second. What do you mean that you're, like, they asked the gentleman who was cooking and the KKK were like, well, his food is really good. And then
my
the gentleman
God.
was like, well, they pay, like, they're good customers, so what do you want to do about it? You saw the statement, though, from the alleged KKK
So
leader in
this
Montana.
black man was a capitalist hero.
He was. Oh, he was.
He's
And
like, I don't care if they hate me. They're buying my food.
I guarantee
I'll
that
sell
his
it to
food
them.
was better than Popeyes. You heard about that KKK leader in Montana, though, that said something to the effect of, like, he's like, well, we're going to make it more diverse now, so we want to have people of all races and, like, orientations and stuff in there. So the Clayton Bigsby black-white supremacist thing is happening for real, which I'm excited about.
I don't know.
Nothing
I don't know
happens.
how we got onto this. You.
That's
you
the power of
spun
Popeyes,
this,
baby.
You spun
That's
this
the
out
power of
somewhere else.
Popeyes.
The point is, Popeyes is very good in Louisiana only.
No.
And this woman has a very good career now because Popeyes gave her
I
this
would say
opportunity.
that
And I don't think it's racist.
it wasn't racist, it was questionable. I would say, okay, I'm going to make a bold statement.
Oh, God.
Bold statement.
Oh, God.
What's the woman who does the Pine Sol ads? Diane.
Oh, God. I don't know her
I
name.
wanted to call her Diane Arbus, but that's an artist.
I don't know her name.
Diane.
Gay icon.
Okay, yes, gay icon. First of all, the Pine Sol lady has done more for race relations in this country than the last 10 black members of Congress combined. I'll say it now. And by the way,
And I
with
won't-
Jesse Jackson retiring this week, the Pine Sol lady has done more for race relations in a positive way than Jesse Jackson does in this whole cursed career.
And I will leave it at that because I do not have a rebuttal to that. I can agree with that, but I won't go any further. You said you had a topic, so let's wrap this up. And
I don't fucking remember. No, I was going to say something about. It was going to continue about blue cities and red states and red cities and blue states and everything, but that's fine. We can get to that another time.
okay, well, we do have a little bit more time, so
No, we don't.
we do actually.
No, we don't.
We do. I'm looking at the
I
numbers.
just
We
want to
do.
be specifically difficult.
Well, no, Kim Petras. So let's bring this back to culture.
Oh,
You shared with me
What about
last
him?
week a very interesting
the
article.
misplaced promise of Kim Petras. It was an article in NPR, which I didn't even know the NPR had a music division.
Right.
I thought they just reviewed elevator music, but you know. They had some of the meanest sentences I've ever seen in an
About a
article.
tranny.
Well, here's the thing. And they made a very good point. Kim Petras, 6 to 8 years ago, was revolutionary. Because you had, in the middle of all this like sort of emo pop and stupid dance shit and stuff like that, you had someone who was trying to be a real ass pop star and was like, look, she's like, I'm going to look like Barbie, I'm a tranny, I'm going to do up the hair and everything like that, and had a real pop voice. Not since Britney have you had a dyed-in-the-wool pop star try to come out and really do like pop music. And played all these underground things like the Heaven Party and stuff. And, you know, it was great. Like, that was a glorious time because it was like Heart to Break, Hillside Boys, like you had real fucking music. Then
The first time I heard anything by her, well, I take that back. I've heard the songs that you just mentioned before, but I didn't know who she was, right? I
Yes.
just heard them offhand. The first time I heard her music and knew who she was because of our least favorite person, one of our least favorite people, I should say, Ryan Murphy. Because he used one of her Halloween inspired or
yeah, because it was Turn Off the Lights is the Halloween album.
right. So he used one of those songs from that album on
Boo, bitch.
on one of the American Horror Stories
Yes.
shows. And so I listened to the song and I was like, oh, hey, this is kind of a catchy and fun song. Let me look it up. And I was like, oh, this is this tranny everyone's talking about. I was like, of course, Ryan Murphy would use, her music in his show.
I want to use this.
I think it was "There Will Be Blood." Is that one of the songs?
No.
Does she say that in one of the songs?
I think so.
Whatever song that was is the one he used in his show. The first season of American Horror Stories.
And then there's it's like you'll die soon or something. Like they're all good. But I love this quote. After an early career of releasing demos on SoundCloud, her 2017 run of catchy debut singles positioned her as a newcomer who could potentially dominate the pop charts one day. Her aesthetic slotting in comfortably among the more alternative PC music adjacent pop darlings of the late 2010s. On paper, most of her career was aligned with the Ava Maxes and the BB Rexes of the world.
Right.
Precariously placed C-tier pop stars whose music is shared between gay people with the question, why is this low-key good? Artists destined to play at corporate pride performances and maybe get a platinum single if they're lucky, making inoffensive, nondescript electropop that could appropriately soundtrack a nightclub in a mid-budget Netflix original. That's the meanest sentence I have ever heard, and I love it.
You have to give a little bit of context. So, her first few albums, I guess her first album and a half, I don't know, because Slut Pop was technically an EP. Her first music was not widely played.
Very gay.
And obviously very gay. She knew her demographic. And she should have kept playing to that, quite honestly, because the gays will make you famous.
Yes.
The gays will make you famous and popular. We know this. Look at Lady Gaga. But if she had kept going with that kind of vibe, she would have been fine. So that Halloween album, the Slut Pop EP, were very targeted toward the gay community, and they were very good.
It was very well produced because, let's be honest, Dr. Luke was producing her songs, who did Kesha and all these other musicians.
Right. So,
but it was good.
There were years, well, not even years, like a year and a half that passed until this most recent album.
Well, there was
Feed
Slut
the Beast
Pop came out, which was a fun little EP,
which was last summer.
Yes.
So this summer, so a year, her second full album came out, Feed the Beast, and there's really only one song on it that's somewhat catchy.
Right.
The rest of them are kind of boring, and as the article suggested, so I'm just giving context to what you just read. Well, yeah, I said it, just boring. The songs are boring.
Is more acclaimed than ever, and the music is worse than ever. And that's what the article is basically making the statement of. As soon as that unholy collaboration came out with Sam Smith, where, look, you're going to reach the billion mark on Spotify with a song like that. Unfortunately, you are. Because it's also going to get a bunch of radio play, it's going to get award show play, and it's going to get, Billboard stuff and all that. The song was bad. The video was bad. The premise was bad. Everything about it was bad. The marketing was bad. The performances were bad. It was a bad song and a bad move. And I really was hoping that, after that, it was okay, that blip happened, but at least it got me more famous. Now I'm going to do more good pop music. But this whole album came out, and it's just there. It's not great.
I've listened to the entire album. I have. In my own opinion, the title track, so Feed the Beast, is okay. It's okay. It's not bad. It's not good. But I shouldn't say it's not good. It's good. It's not amazing. She could have done better.
Is it to the
Feed
level
the Beast
of what
is
was
okay.
produced previously?
No, it's worse than Slut Pop, yes.
Okay.
Feed the Beast is quote-unquote good. Her song, which should have been the front runner of that album, is Uh-Oh, which is the best. And the article that you referenced said that, of all the songs in this album, this one is the one that, is exactly what she's known for.
Right.
And that is the best song of the album. The rest of them are just kind of they're listenable. They're not bad. But you're just kind of okay, well, I wouldn't want to listen to it again.
Right, there's Alone, there's that collab with Nicki Minaj, and there's stuff where you're
there's the Coconut song, which everyone knows.
That song came out 3 years ago.
I know, but she put it on this album.
So that's kind of sad. Because you have somebody who's very talented, and then, I don't know if it's the music industry or whatever, the music just falls apart. That happened with Lady Gaga, and no one wants to admit it. Although finally they're starting to do it.
Because she had the notoriety and fame when it happened.
As soon as husky office worker women in their Nissans put you on their way to work. There's a certain build. You know, you can see the shoulders and everything else, like the ones that are built like a refrigerator box.
Right, but just a very specific.
It's a very specific body type too. The ones, okay, it's those bitches who have a lot of flair at their desk. As soon as they know who Kim Petras is, or Lady Gaga is, or anybody is, they ruin their entire career because they're like, oh, I love that song, because they want their gay besties to love them. And it's over, because now you're producing music for the most mid, Red Robin eating people that you could imagine.
Okay, but hold on. You're predicting the future before it happens. So it might have happened with Lady Gaga. You're absolutely right.
It did. It hasn't with Kim Petras. Yeah, after that Unholy Sun, because you see that it's happening.
But see, she wasn't really in that song. It was mostly Sam Smith.
Yes, but they're gonna be like, "Ooh, who's this other person? Oh wow, and they're trans. I'm a trans ally. That sounds great. Oh my gosh." That's the conversation that happens. As soon as you become beloved by those people, they will ruin your career as a pop star.
Okay, well,
and by the way, they've run roughshod over Taylor Swift. They've ended Taylor Swift's career. Thank God they have not discovered Lana Del Rey, because they're like, she's too sad. I don't want to listen to Lana Del Rey. She's sad. Thank God for that.
Why would you ever put that in the universe? I'm knocking on wood.
Please.
No, but
say yes to heaven. Say no to HR workers.
To your point, because you've made the comment that Kylie Minogue is basically done because
Kamala
the
Harris
vice president has weighed in on her newest, blockbuster.
By the
song.
way, I want to lean in,
but to the point that I'm trying to make is she has not bowed down to the mid-level music that you're claiming might happen. So don't write Kylie Minogue off yet.
Kylie Minogue has had like 5 careers, and good for her. She sang The Locomotion like 1984.
I know, I remember that song.
Everybody's doing a brand new dance now. I'm going to make one more statement, though.
Oh, God.
I think that Kamala Harris is a better vice president than Mike Pence. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Pence,
if you could see my face right now,
you look like you look like Kim Petras doing Slut Pop. I'm going to make this statement. You see more of Kamala Harris. You didn't see anything of Mike Pence. And then the one time you saw him, he fucked up. And now he's going around saying he's running for president of Ukraine and all this stupid crap. He doesn't care. It's not his issue that people in Detroit are dying on the streets, or Philadelphia, or major cities of the United States. And you'd think that he would be smarter. And Kamala, on the other hand, she gets her hair done. She goes out there. She says one unserious thing. Everyone laughs and they move it along. I want a vice president that you know and you remember. I don't want one that you only remember for being a complete flop and then tries to run again.
But what if you remember her for being absolutely stupid?
You still remember her. Doesn't matter. I think that Kamala Harris gets more respect.
I do not approve the message.
Than Mike Pence. I do. I'm making a very bold statement.
I do not approve. I have no love for Mike Pence. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he did anything either, and he's certainly not memorable.
And as a prosecutor, I think that Kamala Harris was more conservative than Mike Pence is capable of being. She put people in jail.
Well, I can't.
She killed people.
I can't necessarily refute that, but
see,
she's so much more fake than he is.
He's fake in his own way, though.
True, you're absolutely correct.
That glad handing, and it's you can see right through it. It's kind of that shoe polish car salesman vibe. Here's the thing, though. Everyone knows that she's fake, and yet they still accept her because
no, I don't accept
silly.
her.
She's silly and she's unserious. He has not made one fucking joke in his life. I'm tired of him, and I'm tired of his climbing wife. And I'm tired of his daughter and his chief of staff. I hate Mike Pence. Can she
be unserious and potentially run again for president sometime in the future? Like,
yes.
Well, no one likes her, so that's all that matters.
They're not going to replace her, though.
No one likes Mike Pence either, but no one likes her either.
Well, I guess there is a curse to the vice presidents, but remember when there was a goofy vice president and he ended up becoming president. So never discount those people. They end up becoming important at some other point.
Oh, God. We don't need Kamala to become important. We need her to go fuck herself.
Al Gore should have been president.